Not this. Please. Please not this. As much as I love Sonic the Hedgehog, this... Fine. Let's take a look at Sonic X. More like Sonic X! Straight. Sonic the Hedgehog is one of the greatest video game franchises of all time. Yet still, there have been some pretty bad decisions made over the years. And one of them is giving the US licensing rights for this anime series to the notorious 4Kids Entertainment. I know it's been 30 episodes in, but I knew I would have to review an anime released by these guys sooner or later, and honestly, it could never be late enough. Let's talk about these guys for a couple of minutes, because this really needs to be addressed. These guys, with very few exceptions, and I mean very few, I could literally count them on one hand. 4Kids Entertainment is notorious for ruining almost everything they touch. Oh, their crimes against anime and anime fandom are many. From replacing the anime's original soundtrack with in-house stock music, the use of lackluster or inexperienced voice talents and characters being terribly miscast, poorly written dialogue, sometimes done on purpose, removing any and all forms of violence even when crucial to the plot, creating plot holes and a convoluted story, and removing any firearms and turning them into laser cannons, dart guns, water pistols, and what the heck is that? They also like to completely remove entire scenes and episodes or rearrange them in places they should not be in, completely destroying any sense of a coherent storyline. They also tend to heavily Americanize the product, from changing the characters' original names to American ones, and removing any and all references to Japan and Japanese culture and replacing them with American references, or in the case of dialogue, inserting meaningless and unfunny jokes in their place. And when it comes to Americanization, even a normally respectable company like Funimation is guilty of this. While it is understandable some changes may need to be made when showing anime on TV in order to comply with the US's stricter broadcasting standards compared to those of Japan's, it is quite a different matter when you over-edit it to the point that it no longer resembles its original Japanese counterpart and/or no longer matches with the original intentions of the show's creators. And 4Kids Entertainment are the masters of this, and they became the most hated anime distributor in the US anime market. But wait, there's also... I'm waiting! Okay, I think I've left you waiting long enough. Let's dive right into Sonic X and see how they ruined it. So our story begins on a peaceful moonlit night, only to be interrupted by the sound of alarms and sirens. It turns out that Dr. Eggman's fortress is being infiltrated by his arch-enemies Sonic the Hedgehog. It seems that Dr. Eggman is performing an experiment on chaos control, a mysterious phenomena that can warp time and space by using the Chaos Emeralds, and Sonic has arrived to stop him. During the scuffle with Sonic, Eggman accidentally activates the machine, which malfunctions in a blast of energy that envelops the surrounding area.
No! Hold your fire! Here we go! What the fuck?
Now, as a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan, I was ecstatic when they announced that there was going to be a Sonic the Hedgehog anime. On the other hand, from this moment on, it's all going downhill from here.
It seems that the strange blast of energy has transported Sonic from planet Mobius into our world, Earth.
I'm just gonna call it Planet Mobius because they really don't specify where Sonic and friends are originally from in this show.
A group of police officers try to nab him, obviously to no prevail, and a high-speed chase ensues.
Yeah, look, it's unbelievable. Look at this is almost some sort of game to this guy. We're at about Avenue 22 and Broadway, so we're just on the border of Lincoln Heights here. But that was something that we have never seen in any pursuit. The carousel there where the LAPD, I mean, it's such a serious situation, we don't want to make light of it, but that was almost Keystone Cops in a way.
Don't you worry. This hedgehog can't get under us, around us, or through us. We'll stop him. Well, he didn't get under us, around us, or through us.
After multiple attempts to catch him, they decide to go for the last resort, chasing him with a Formula 1 race car?
Does anybody see how impractical this is? Unless your police department is planning to enter the Indy 500, chances are you will never be needing to use it.
So the race car cop, known as Sam Speed, Nyuk Nyuk, and Sonic go head-to-head in a test of speed and wit. Sonic gets cocky and runs out of highway and falls into a swimming pool below.
And as always Sonic fans know, Sonic the Hedgehog cannot swim for an Oscar Mayer footlong smothered in Bush's brand baked beans. Right, Super Smash Bros. Brawl and Summer Olympics? You know, unless that pool was specifically designed to be a diving pool, you could just run to the other side of the pool and climb out through the shallow end.
Oh wait, it is a diving pool. Never mind. Sonic nearly drowns if not for the help of a young boy named Chris Thorndike, who is awakened by Sonic, and they quickly become friends. Sonic and Chris then journey throughout the world looking for their lost friends, as well as the Chaos Emeralds, in hope that they will be the key to returning Sonic back home. Now, it is my belief that Sonic and Friends need no introduction. Instead, I will take this time to explain some of the changes made to Sonic compared to past non-game incarnations of our little blue friend and his pals. At first, I didn't like the way they portray Sonic in this show. They managed to take a mild-mannered yet free-spirited character and turned him into kind of a jerk. Sure, Sonic is kind of lazy and selfish at times, but he also would go out of his way to help others in their time of need, as well as be the constant foil to Dr. Robotnik's crazy schemes. On the other hand, Sonic is also arrogant, selfish, and rude, but he still maintains a certain sense of duty. His best friend, Tails, is pretty much like his other animated counterparts, except this time he has a more dependable side to him rather than just being a typical sidekick. Aside from his ability to fly, he is also very intelligent and very skilled at mechanics. He spends most of his time tinkering with things and figuring out how they work. He is also the pilot of Sonic's plane, the Tornado, in which he built himself. Then there is Knuckles. I have got to admit this was the first time I have seen him in animated form, and he looks fantastic. He is pretty much like he was in the games, Rash, short-tempered, and untrusting, yet at the same time extremely gullible. He longs to return back home to continue his duty of guarding the Master Emerald, and thus determined to find the Chaos Emeralds and return to his home dimension. He has a friendly rivalry with Sonic in that Knuckles' strict and serious personality often contrasts with Sonic's more carefree nature. Thus, despite being on mostly friendly terms, Sonic and Knuckles will often argue and even fight with each other. Knuckles is also kind of antisocial, preferring to work alone in most cases. Then there is Dr. Eggman, who we classic Sonic fans all know as Dr. Robotnik. What is interesting about this character is that unlike his other incarnations, and although he is the main villain of the show, he is not entirely evil. He suffers from a superiority complex and believes that he can run the world better than others, and that by taking over the world,
Of course!
he aims to make the world a better place to live in, even though his harebrained schemes do not exactly harbor the best of intentions. His personality seems to be a mix between the dark and serious Dr. Robotnik from the Saturday morning cartoon series, with all the flamboyant flair of the childish and comedic mannerisms from his Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog counterpart. His relationship with Sonic is also more complex, ranging between mortal enemies to a light-hearted friendly rivalry, and they will often set aside their differences and team up with each other when more dangerous situations arise. Also, unlike the other incarnations of the character, Dr. Eggman actually enjoys his scuffles with Sonic, a fact that he stubbornly keeps to himself. At the same time, however, he does hate having to lose to the Hedgehog, and does whatever he can to keep Sonic from ruining his plans, dirty tricks or otherwise. Other characters abound, such as Amy, Shadow, the Chaotix, Rouge, but I mostly wanted to talk about the characters who were there from the first few games, as well as those who appeared in other animated incarnations of the game's characters. Aside from some periodic mild violence, the show is pretty much squeaky clean for viewers of all ages. Even so, some of the violence is toned down in the US version. However, in the Japanese dub, there is also a somewhat infamous scene in Episode 2 where Sonic uses some rather choice dialogue.
I mean, what's next? Is Sonic suddenly gonna start belting out George Carlin?
And I'd like to share some with you now. The list is a little longer than it was before.
So I will give all other categories 0 stars, but for violence, I will give 2 stars in both categories.
Now here's where things really start to get interesting. What I actually think about the show.
Now, I am not going to lie to you. Despite having some rather interesting action sequences, the show's overall pacing is extremely slow. Rather than going straight for the 7 Chaos Emeralds, we run into filler episode after filler episode, each exposing more and more about the personalities of Sonic and his friends. Stuff we already know from playing the games! The layout of the episodes follow a very standard formula. Eggman attacks with a robot, Sonic battles the robot, Sonic destroys the robot, more flandering from Chris, etc. Then by episode 26, this constant Robot of the Week formula starts to get really irritating, and the show really suffers from Sailor Moon syndrome.
It burns!
Things start to get better by the time we get into adapting the Sonic Adventure games, which by this time is a phenomenal breath of fresh air. Things take a more interesting and darker tone once Season 3 comes around, which is a unique story in its own right, using some story elements from Shadow the Hedgehog's spin-off game released in 2005. What I find interesting about this story arc is, from what I have heard, Sonic X was originally intended to be a 52-episode series consisting of two 26-episode seasons. 4Kids Entertainment then commissioned Sega and TMS Entertainment to create an additional third season exclusive to the US.
Area 99 is full of infrared motion detectors that set off security alarms. If you wear that, you may be able to avoid them.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
The story overall is kind of slow, but it's not too bad. It gets better over time. Thus, I am willing to give story 3 stars out of 5. Once again, in true 4Kids fashion, the original anime soundtrack was replaced with a generic in-house one. So US viewers do not get the satisfaction of hearing any music from the games that are used in the original Japanese version of the anime. What really bugs me is that I have no clue why they had to replace all of the music in this show, since the Japanese soundtrack wasn't really that bad. So I will give the US version soundtrack a generous 2 stars. The show's animation was average for the most part. During more dramatic scenes near the end of a story arc, it gets more detailed, but sadly you can tell from episode 1 that this show was running on kind of a small budget, and it clearly shows in the animation if anywhere else. On the flip side, however, it is still nice to look at. The character designs were clearly modeled after their modern designs that were used from Sonic Adventure into today, but still, I will have to give animation a 3 out of 5 stars. It does seem questionable at times.
Hey, what would 4Kids Entertainment be without voice talents with questionable performances, shoddy dialogue, and cheap one-liners?
The only character that seems out of place here is that of Chris Thorndike. It's not that I hate this character, but the fact that he took me quite a while to get used to. The main reason for this is because, with the exception of Dr. Eggman, they also tend to be very stereotypical, specifically our obsessive-compulsive friend Sam Speed, who is obsessed with anything fast, and also happens to be Chris's uncle. What a shock. That being said, I will give characters 3 stars. This anime kind of surprised me. Knowing 4Kids Entertainment, I went into this anime expecting a scathing review of a horrible adaptation of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. But to be honest, I really didn't find it to be that bad. It's got its problems, sure, but for what it's worth, it is at least worth a decent look, or at least a rental. However, it is a rather long series, so you may want to watch at least the first few episodes before you decide it is worth your time to watch the whole thing or not. Thus, I will give Sonic X 2 points for interest and an overall rating of 5 out of 10.
So this anime is pretty much average at best. On the flip side, however, there are shows that are handled much worse than this that 4Kids Entertainment has pumped out over the years. And I'll be damned if I have to review any one of those trash heaps anytime soon. This is the American Anime Otaku, signing out.